In this session, we're going to work with instantiating objects and then doing very funny things with them. So, we don't need this, we don't need this, and this. So, this is our main enemy. Okay. And then we have our player here. And let's make it a little bit, to give it something like a hand. Let's go to player. From the 2D sprites, select capsule is good, but not this size. So let's okay, just 90%, and then move it here. So it's like a hand that is shooting something. So let's change the color to something like green is good. Okay. And it is parented. The player is a parent and this is a children. It's a child. So if I move that, it moves too. And if I move this simply, it just moves alone. So let's return it here. So we have a player. Let's go to its, and also I need a bullet. So give it, for example, yeah, this is one of the sprites. And the reason is that I make that was I want to give it a rotation so that to see how it rotates. Okay, so this is my bullets or the magical things, and I give the color of orange, maybe, yes, that resembles a fire. And let me explain something very quickly. Oh, let's close the package. Okay, you have something here, and you have different layer. For example, let me add background for BG for background. Okay, and then I want to give, if this is below that, it means that you have priority to show at first. This and move it here, and you see that is fine. For the default layer, for example, I want that the enemy and the player be in the default. Okay, and also the floor doesn't matter. And the BG is always on the back, no matter what sorting layer you give it to that. But imagine that I have this here. Now the player is on top of that. But if I go here, an ordering layer is, let me, for example, enemy. If I give it 1, then it would come on top of the enemy, because in this default layer, in that specific layer, those who has more number, and when number increase, it means that they are shown in the front. So that is another way that you can uh, you know control this. So, and another way is that you try to play with the z factor. And as I told you, when you go to minus, or when the z is lower than, for example, this enemy has 0, but this is minus, so it shows it on top of that. But if you make it number to more positive, 0 is lower than this, so it will show first. So that is opposite to that. That's if you increase the number, it has a more priority. But here that is the opposite in the position. The less that it has a number, the the object is closer to the camera and it is in the front. So okay. So imagine that I have my player here. And where was my? Oh yes, it's here. And the color is kind of. So now I call it fire. It's not really the fire, but I mean that, for example, is an orb. The orb around it. Okay, this you know what I mean. So to use that, I need to. You can make a folder called prefab. Go there and drag and drop your fire there. Then it will change the color. And then if I delete that and bring it here, these are all my prefab. And the good thing is that when I change once the color here, all of them are changed. So I don't need to change the color for one by one. And when you want to instantiate something, you have to use a prefab form. So you can endlessly use this. Okay, so let's delete that. And so I have my fire. Now I need to specify that to where the fire wants to start. From here, from here, from here. Of course, I wanted a slightly, it would be in front of the bullet or the hand. So I make an empty game object and call it fireplace or any name that you want and can be recognized by you later. There's a cool thing here is that this is something that only you can see, the player cannot see, so you know where it starts. Yes, it was here. Okay, that is cool. So you know the exact position of the game object. Because if you don't use that, it's very hard to see it. Because if you say none, okay, this is very hard to see, so I select, for example, this. But this is nothing. In the game view, you don't see that. Okay, I want to have my fire starts from here. So let's write the code for the player. It was the code. Okay, it was a code that previously we had written for movements. So first I want to say I want the fire itself is a game object. You see, in the prefab folder, it is a game object. You put it here. So I want the game object of this prefab. Game object fire. Then I want the position of this fireplace. Then I say serialized field. No. Private. Transform. It means chance. The place or coordination of the fireplace. Okay, so now let's go to our that's the code to be compiled. Here, if I want that it does something, we have to give it a collider. Otherwise, it wouldn't have any effects on the enemy. So let's give it a polygon collider. You see that there is a very, let me change the color. Doesn't matter. Oh, no. Do you see that outline? It means that it is a collider. And let's return here. Yes, we also need other things like rigid body if we want that it moves. So let me give it a rigid body as well. As we wanted the fire just moves in the straight line and the gravity wouldn't apply to that, so just I make it 0 or just can make it kinematic. I want it to rotate, so I don't like the Z. So, but as I want the fire, for example, bounce back and do something, so I make it dynamic. So it have more natural movement and physics related. So now we are ready. We have our fire set. It has a color. It has collider. It has rigid body, and it is a prefab. Now we have the place of the fire that is here. So in the code, fire, which fire? This one. Transform fireplace, transform where? So I give the place of this. If you play the game, nothing happens, of course. I don't want that this one moves. I want that it only stays here. So I comment it because I don't need that. Let's go to player code. So now for instantiating, what we should do. Let's write another function. Void. I say function, I mean method, they are the same thing. So I have shooting. For example, imagine that you have a game about a witch shooting a fireball. So the concept is that you have a fireball and you say, okay, I wanted the fireball first be produced from this position, and then after I created that, I want that it be shooted, and then, okay, yes, it stays there. So we have to do extra simples, for example, like to make it to give damage to the enemy or just to be destroyed. Okay, so to make and create an object, we say instantiate. Then it has 3 parameters for most of the cases. First, something that we want to instantiate, which was that fire orb. Then where? In the fireplace. So it is kind of transform. We want transform. Yes, we say transform dot position, so it is a transform. Now we only need to say position, so the position of that. And then if we want that or fire doesn't rotate, for example, if you have an arrow that the head and the tail is different, so yes, that's important to give it an initial value that it has to, for example, if the player is facing there, the tip of the arrow should be there to be instantiated in this way. But if the player is looking at this side, the tip of the arrow should look at this side. So when you want to instantiate that, that is where you decide for that. But for now, we decide that, okay, it's not important, and we just say quaternion, that's identity. It means that just have the original position rotation of the object. So yeah, Just you need this. Simple. So in the update method, we want to say that if the player had just hit the left bottom of the mouse, so for that we say if input, it means that you get the input from the player. Get key down, if it press it, key code, get mouse 0. If it press that, oh, it need two parentheses. Then, what to do? Do the shooting. So if I press this button, it should shoot and instantiate the fire. So let's see what happens. I press that, and yes, it's there because why? Because I didn't. It's not moving because I didn't give it any direction, any velocity. So the code is only instantiated, but it's not responsible to make the object that is instantiated to move. So I can say game object, because it is a game object, GO equals. So I have that. Now I can give some velocity that it can move, because or prefab that was this fire has a rigid body. Or if it doesn't have it, you can just say transform that position, something that I have taught you before. So, but let me tell you that if you can either make another code and give it to your fire so it can move in the start function, or we can give the codes here. So now you have the GO, that is a fire that has been instantiated. Now we want to get the components of the rigid body. So we say rigid body to the RB is equal to GO that get component rigid body 2D. Okay. So now that we have that, we can, like before, give it a velocity and a speed. RB that's velocity equals to new vector 2. For the X, it goes 2. For the Y, just have your own regular position, your previous position, so don't add or decrease the height. And how about the speed? I want to speed in the speed of, do I have anything here? Yes, I have. I can duplicate that. That is a fire speed. Oh. Now let's see what happens. Oh, beautiful. So now I want that if the fire is shooted, it just rotates. RB, that's angular velocity, equals, so for example, to 10. It means that it rotates by 10 in the z axis. Oh, that's so slow. So maybe I have to increase that to 80. It's good to have this in the inspector so you can easily change that. But as it is not very important, so this is your decision. Oh, it is so. I make it like this. So yeah, so I gave that this number, and now you can play with that number. You just get the idea. So this is one of the approaches. And but if you don't want to give it a rigid body to the to the fire that you have, you don't want to give the dots, and you want to just use transform that position, then that is all right, and I teach you how to do that. Go to your scripts and make a new C# file and call it fire movement. But for the simplicity of this tutorial, I just say fire. Open your prefab and go to scripts and give the fire. Okay. No. Let's open that. We only want to say, okay, you fire, just, for example, move to right when you are instantiated. And it's an update because every frame that we want that it moves. So we say chance. Again, I have to close and open it. It is buggy. Say transform dot translate vector 2 as if we are in the 2D. That's right. You want that it move to right. You can move it to down, left, up. It depends on you. But actually, the fire, when you want to shoot that, it should go to that direction. So, and we want to give it a speed of 10. And we have to say time by delta time. For velocity, for rigid body, we didn't use that because I've told you. But for the other things, you have to add that. So, yes, let the code compile. Bang, bang, you see, it is working. But now I want that it rotates as well. So imagine that we want that it rotates on the z-axis. Control C. Say transform that rotate. Then we have three parameters for x, y, and z. For x and y, it would be 0, and for the z, for example, we say 360 and time dot delta time. Okay, so we have this. Let's try it. Okay, if something like this happens, it's like a leaf in the wind of the autumn. Okay, if something like this happens to you, for the translate, just add a space world. Space dot world. It means that it is moving in a space world and then it's rotating around itself. Then the problem is solved. And now, bang, bang. Actually, this is more natural that I give it minus. So it rotates on the. Yes, this is better. No, this is a green, four-sided shuriken. And so yes, it is working even in jumping. But you see that you have lots of clones, which doesn't look good because when you have lots of these, then the performance would decrease a lot. So let's add something. Let's add a cooldown. For example, after 2 seconds, they're destroyed. So we can say float um, cooldown timer is equal to, for example, 2f. Now in the update method, we say that first we want that the cooldown timer minus equal to time of data time. So if during each frame, it would decrease a little bit of time until that it reaches 0. So the cooldown timer, when it gets lower or less than 0, then destroy these fire orbs, which is the game object, because we gave the code directly to the fire. So the game object means that the thing that is currently the code is attached to. Okay. For other situations, we might want to set column to 2. For example, for the sword, we want to attack, okay, it is 0, and then the cooldown timer has passed. No, again, it is 2, and I'm allowed to attack again. But here, as it is destroyed, and um, the code is no longer, because when you destroy something, it means that the game object is gone, and it doesn't matter if you write any codes after that; they are not executed. So after 2 seconds, just it is destroyed. So now let's play. Bang! Did you see that? They are destroyed, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There are also other ways like object pooling. For example, you have some objects ready, so you don't have to make and destroy things again. You just have something ready, and just you active and deactivate them after this is shooted. This is another thing. But if you have a shooter game that uses guns, for example, the gun shoots thousands of bullets, like that, you cannot use instantiating or object pooling. You should use ray casting, which later we will talk about that. That there is a ray that's like an X-ray that is coming out of this, that is invisible, and it detects that if it hits the player by its calculation, and it then it, for example, instantiate a blood effect or decrease the health. So it depends on the situation. But for this simple game, that, for example, for 2 seconds, every 2 seconds, you use the magical power and instantiate something, I think that a method of instantiating is quite good. So yeah, that's it.